And no Shiros here. Ow. Right, I didn't actually see that there was something on me.
Welcome back to the Mentor Roulette grind. This time, we're playing Black Mage some more to take another look at the DPS angle of Mentor Roulette at present. Some might say this is a pretty awesome duty distribution, but I'd say it could have been more interesting. That said, for duty 1, we went to Shiva Extreme and Ilana is here. It is pretty clear that at least one tank knows exactly what to do, but the other tank is also doing a lot of things right. Between the healers, I guess there are some minor details, like how the Scholar is spamming Ruin instead of Art of War, which when paired with auto attacks is a gain on 1 at level 50, and both healers at times casting Medica 2 or Succor when it wasn't really necessary. They do seem to manage their MP pretty smartly to compensate though. Like, I'm saying really minimal stuff here, that's great. At the same time, they also use their tools very actively and well, including the Scholar intercepting the phase transition snap with both a Succor Barrier and Sacred Soil. Aside from an early death to the wacky circle AoEs at the start of the fight, the team held together really well for the majority of the fight. Although, right at the end, we have a chain of things going sideways one by one, which could have been disastrous if Shiva didn't die just then. A healer dies to the circle AoEs that followed right after the sword cleave, and the current tank dies from an auto attack after that, leaving a tank with a heavy slashing debuff to be kept alive by a lone Scholar. But that's when the fight ends. Very nicely done. For duty 2, we went to pretty plosive plants. As Black Mage, the best you can really do is get into Astral Fire on the first pack and then just super focus the boss, because nothing else needs to die to clear the duty. And your AoE really sucks here anyway. For duty 3, we went to Secret Conjurers Incorporated. Again, Black Mage AoE super sucks at this level, as the long Fire 2 cast time means your target can just die before you finish casting, but even if it didn't, the damage is only marginally better than, say, a Barb's Quick Knock, that doesn't have the risk of failing to fire. Focusing on single targeting healer mobs is probably a better use of your options. Remember, the healers have a stick, but no shield. For duty 4, we went to more bubbles. I was actually surprised by how long the fight dragged on, since it almost seemed like stuff was gonna happen. My guess as to why is that the warrior got hit by bad breath. Black Mage damage at this level is also not amazing, let's just say. For duty 5, we went to obnoxious get-togethers, and my best recommendation here is to just cast fire on whatever mob is healthiest at any time. Then when the Gorbia appears, thunder that and continue spamming fire. If you want to get extra fancy, transpose to Ice and use Lucid Dreaming in between the first packs and the second wave. For duty 6, we went to Pointless Flames. Similar to other guild tests with a lot of mobs, Black Mage is usually better served just focusing a big target to avoid having their casts cancelled thanks to flimsy enemies. Leave the AoE to others, except maybe your Thunder 2 here. And remember that there is no point in trying to put out the flames. One flame being present is all the boss needs, and each hound places a new one, so putting out every flame is a pointless endeavor. For duty 7, we went to the Turtle Slap and Sleep. For this one, I recommend setting up Thunder on the turtle as quickly as possible, and then using Fire to take out the adds one by one. Try to target the healthiest mob to ensure your cast goes through. This, of course, went with no worries as usual. For duty 8, we went to Castrum Meridianum. We had a single target dodging Ninja, but aside from that, the team seemed pretty sound. Including the fact the Ninja was using Trick Attack and things like that. This is also probably the little range where Black Mage has the most cursed AoE rotation. Freeze, mildly cool Fire 2, Flare, optionally Thunder 2, Transpose, repeat. It sounds incredibly dumb, but it is in fact as good as it gets, as switching with Fire 2 helps overcome the fact that Transpose has a cooldown and makes Flare stronger. Blizzard 2 serves no purpose since it gives you MP you won't use and makes Fire 2 faster to cast, but it itself is a cast you didn't want to do in the first place. You're effectively spending 2 additional seconds for 40 potency per target, remembering that Flare in Astral Fire 3 deals 302.4 potency to the secondary targets. 20 potency per second doesn't sound that great then now, does it? For duty 9, we went to the new dungeon from 7.4. If you don't want to see it, jump to this timestamp here. That said, we of course went to Mistwake. Most of the duty went super well, but at the time that we ran this, I was still having trouble with the Galloping Thunder mechanic. The simple way to dodge it is to look at the first 2 dashes and dodge to the opposite side of the first dash of where the second dash goes. This gives you room to dodge the explosions from the first dash, and by the time the third dash comes, you can dodge back into where the first dash took place. There are of course also other options, but many of them are going to be a lot scarier than they need to be. Case in point, I did not choose right, and died for it. Just before the fight ends, the mechanic comes up again, and I solve it exactly as described. After second dash is revealed, dodge to the opposite side of the first dash. But then the boss died. For duty 10, we went to neighborhood parties, and the samurai knew me. Hello! As usual, I recommend simply using fire to clear enemies, and use thunder on the Gobu at the end. If possible, recover MP before the Gobu spawn so you can get as much damage as possible. For duty 11, we went to over the shoulder pad with Naomi. This one went on for long enough that thunder almost ticked out fully, and we even almost finished an Umbral Ice state. For duty 12, we went to hostile groups. Imagine wanting to play Black Mage, but then Mentor Roulette said, level 11, take it or leave it. For duty 13, we went to E1N, Eden Prime, with Nox and Snowshiro. Something funny that happened in this one is that for the first few minutes, the other dancers seemed to forget about close position. And when they finally did remember, they doubled down on partnering Nox. And here I stand, alone and partnerless, a small lizard in a big hat. But once Snowshiro noticed, they moved their close position to me. Yay! With that funny side bit out of the way, then let's talk about some tips for this fight. The first one is that for the dimensional shift mechanic, the boss jumps to a corner of the room and cleaves everything in front of it, which compels you to run behind it. However, as random circle AoEs are baited to player locations, it helps a lot to take your time. For the Fragor Maximus ad intermission, normally when there are two ads, you'd think there would be some sort of punishment for overlapping them and not keeping them apart, but that's not really the case for this one. The punishment, quote-unquote, for stacking the ads is that they both do no warning frontal cone tank busters, which could get a bit dicey if they overlap at the same time. But if that isn't life-threatening, then there's no other reason to keep them apart. Despite a disconnected tank and a death here and there, the run went very well. One final note is that the big cutscene attack takes so long to complete and snapshots so late in the cutscene that any mitigation or barriers you might put up will all time out before that, and even if they didn't, the attack seems to deal the damage type that tends to ignore mitigation anyways. For the curious, the cutscene is like 45 seconds long. For duty 14, we went to Necron with Naomi and Snowshiro. I don't think I've seen the normal version of this fight in months. Right at the start of the fight, I guess I was mentally checked out because I died to the most obvious and easy to avoid attack, but one of the healers did too. The healers of course raised immediately, but promptly goes down to the over half rooms, which pretty much means I'm out for the next 40 seconds at least. Thanks to the Scholar choosing to hardcast Raise on the Sage, it ended up being almost exactly 40 seconds. Now, for the Grand Cross mechanic with the swirling orbs, a tip from the extreme version is that the first two orbs simply will not hit the intercardinal corners, while the orbs after that will miss the cardinals. Whether this is consistently true for normal I cannot say, but it would not surprise me since it is roughly the same mechanic. For the solo ad intermission a bit later, here's a pro tip: just don't low roll! Then you can leave faster! After that intermission, our Pixelmancer drops, and then not much happens until the 4 4-player circles where, it turns out, we're all terrible at resolving them, leading to a sequence of chaos. The remaining circle that didn't get resolved turns into icy hands, some players get hit by the spawning hands at the same time due to the chaos, some get hit by the over half room cleave, and then, well, we didn't kill the icy hands in time, leading to a raid wide, leading to a combined 3 deaths in a matter of seconds. As the dead healer was already on the way back up again, we gradually recovered, and since the boss doesn't seem to have much in the sense of stack markers, losing 3 players for a while isn't that big of a deal either. And despite everything that happened, we get to finish the fight off with Meteor! Woohoo! For duty 15, we went to Ramuh hard with Ilana, and this fight went great. No one ever really got forced to just sit and watch for an extended period with the Chaotic Strike. When Ilana and I got the tether, we resolved it quickly. In fact, we can see an interesting interaction about player positions when we do, as Ilana and I both tried to grab the orbs in sync, leading to this situation where even though it appears like I'm in front on my screen, Ilana ends up with the orbs. The reason for this is that due to latency and servers and all that, your location on your screen is actually a peek into the future, and the location of everyone else on your screen is a peek into the past. The true quote-unquote location of each player is typically closer to the middle between these two, the past and future. This also means that if you're walking on top of another player on your screen, you are definitely behind them on theirs. This is also why often you will see players dodge attacks while on your screen they absolutely got hit. Another funny thing that happened near the end of the fight was a healer and a tank being tethered, and I guess they thought the tether did damage based on how close the players were to each other. Oh well, it didn't end up mattering much. For duty 16, we went to self-management. There's a funny detail about this duty, that despite all the packs in your way towards the boss, the only mob you actually need to kill is the boss. Personally, I prefer clearing out those packs before the boss as it makes things less hectic, but considering it is only a matter of time before the waves of enemies would outnumber those initial packs anyway, I wonder how much it really matters. And finally for duty 17, we went to Alexandria. On the first boss, on the second foreign entity removal, the healer dies, and the machinist almost goes down too. As I bring out the phoenix down to raise the healer, the machinist dies to a stack marker. By the way, a very weird tip on this. If it is pretty clear you're going to die anyway from a stack marker targeting you, just take it alone. What makes the foreign entity removal mechanic so scary when things go even slightly sideways is that getting hit 3 times in a row can be lethal for non-tank jobs. Which I know sounds kind of irrelevant, but the quantity of attacks and the mechanic means that it is very possible for 3 of them to connect, and messing up once often leads to messing up twice anyway. On the second boss, the healer went down during the chasing circle AoEs right at the end of the fight, so thankfully, Phoenix down wasn't needed this time. And now, for a bit of random hypothetical lore discussion. Whenever I reach the last boss in this duty, I always find it funny how the boss is announcing every action, as if it is in some sort of debug mode and testing. We discussed this on the livestream and came to the conclusion that since this is based off Sven's memories, this machine may be based off a real combat robot that Sven only observed in its testing phase, which is why it announces everything. Of course, I'm aware that this thing with having machine bosses just announce their attacks like this is a classic way to have the machine that has no reason to speak say something, but I do find it funny to think about how this could make sense. Thankfully, we didn't have any issues on this boss. A very guild test heavy set of duties this time around. On the plus side, it made up for how much time we spent in queue with nothing to show for it. On the minus side, I would have definitely preferred some more interesting duties. We also passed 53 80ths on the achievement. Now, that is all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to support me and my channel more directly, you can become a member like these wonderful people here. You can also alternatively support me through Twitch or Ko-Fi. Links in the description. You can also support the channel by letting the YouTube algorithm know by liking the video, leaving a comment, subscribing, sharing, and hitting the bell to get notified when next I post a video. Fun fact, originally Blizzard 2 was centered on the Black Mage, did significantly worse damage than it does now, and before Shadowbringers even applied a binding effect to targets hit. It wasn't until Endwalker that the spell was remade to be decent, quote unquote. Only for Dawntrail to remove most reasons you might have to use it. But hey, it at least got the chance to experience being good.